I'm Reeves Kurtner, and this is In Your Business. Season 1 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington. Online at mosesmeansmore.com. And powered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications. This week, we're joined by Chris Lambert and Barry Burgess from the accounting firm Suttle and Stalnaker. Suttle and Stalnaker recently merged with the Huntington-based accounting firm Somerville Company. We're going to discuss the process of the merger, the reasons behind it, discussing the move with current staff and clients, some of the challenges, and more. Let's get in your business.
Let's go ahead and get started by both introducing yourself so we can put a voice to the name and some background information on your respective firms. Chris, you go first.
Okay, I'm Chris Lambert. I'm an audit partner at Suttle and Stalnaker. Been there about 15 years. Came to Huntington to help with this transition.
Sure. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, Barry Burgess. I'm a member with Suttle and Stalnaker. Prior to the merger, I was managing partner with Somerville Company. I'm a Marshall graduate, mostly practicing in the area of taxation, and I've been in Huntington all of my life.
Today we want to talk about mergers and all the ins and outs of it. Let's talk about what was the primary motivation, for Chris, for you all to kind of come into Huntington. How did all this come to be?
Well, we are a West Virginia firm helping West Virginia businesses. We had 3 other offices. We wanted to be in Huntington for a couple of reasons. One, Huntington's probably the second largest city in the state, and it's also so close to Marshall University. And the hardest thing for us to acquire right now is talent. And to be close to a university that's producing talent, a chance to intern those kids while they're going to school, that was probably the most important thing.
So that makes sense. I wanted to go. So you were like, hey, we can open up a new office, or we can talk to another office that's already there. I mean, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's hard to start an office from scratch. You just the clients and the people getting to know you in the town and all those things. So it's much easier if you can find someone who would want to merge in.
Yeah.
We did that in Parkersburg. We did that in Morgantown. It allowed us to be close to WU, acquire those, kids and
That's right.
talent.
Sure.
And, we're hoping to duplicate that here in Huntington.
So how did those conversations start with Somerville? Like, how did you look at other firms in Huntington? Did you have a relationship already with Barry and the partners at Somerville?
Well, one of our partners, Wally Suttle, knew Barry and reached out. I mean, we looked at the firms that were in Huntington, and we talked to Barry, and they had a conversation, and Barry can probably fill you in on how that conversation went.
Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, well, we're a local firm, so we really weren't looking to merge, but in the accounting industry, mergers are not uncommon.
Sure.
For the reasons Chris alluded to, retaining and recruiting staff, technology issues, etc. So Wally called me a year ago, August of 22.
Okay.
And just said that Suttle and Stalnaker was looking to expand into the Huntington market. He said the best way to enter a market is to merge in a firm who's already there, as Chris said, because we're already connected, have a culture, a history, a lot of relationships. He said, "Are you interested in talking to us?" And I said, "Absolutely."
Okay.
So we began a conversation and started talking about the cultures of the firms and how this would work. And over a period of about 9 to 10 months, we worked through the details. And it wasn't my decision; it was our partner group's decision. And
Was it a vote?
It was a vote. It was unanimous.
Right.
Unanimous vote. And of course, with the merger, I think our operating agreement required a unanimous vote, I believe, as well as Suttle's.
Yeah,
so
it does.
So we started, putting pieces together, put the transaction together, and it became effective August 1st, 2023.
So how did you identify that it was you mentioned like culture? How did you identify that it was a right fit for Somerville?
Well, first of all, Jack Suttle, who was one of the founding members of Suttle and Stalnaker, I knew. We served together on the West Virginia Society Board of Accountancy, West Virginia Society of CPAs Board of Directors. And he was a stellar of a man. I had a lot of respect for him. I knew of Wally and Suttle and Stalnaker just because in West Virginia, it's a small state. You cross paths with other firms. I've been leading Somerville as managing partner since 2015. And our focus has been on our people, our clients, and our community. And one of the first things that was said to me by Suttle and Stalnaker was, well, our focus is on our people, our clients, and our community. And that was almost like love at first sight, if you want to call it that. And so that made me feel really comfortable. We've had other, I won't call them opportunities, but other discussions over the years about mergers, us acquiring smaller firms or us merging with larger firms. And they didn't feel right. So it's similar to dating, I think. You know, there has to be an attraction, there has to be common interests, and it just has to feel right, and this did.
So you said 2022, August of 2022, you mentioned 9 or 10 months later. So what was happening during those 9 or 10 month period before it was finalized?
You know, we were looking at their clients or their list and how things worked there, you know, agreements, just getting a feel for, you know, if we do this, how's it all going to work together? How will the people and the clients react to it? How will our staffs react to it, and those things? So, you know, there's a lot of agreements. Obviously, you're basically selling your business, in a way. So, you know, they had to make sure they were comfortable with that and got the price they wanted to get for that, and those type of things. So those were kind of the behind the scenes, and it could have went faster, sure. Okay.
To me, 9, 10 months sounds fast, I'll be honest. I mean,
well, when you're an accountant, there's always a deadline.
Okay.
So, you know, well, okay, we got to this point, and now it's tax time, or now it's tax season.
That's right.
And so then we would get busy with taking care of our clients.
Of course. And
we'd kind of put this on the back burner.
You mentioned, you know, communication is huge. There's a lot of different people that we do have to communicate with on this. So let's start with our staffs. Let's talk about that. So everybody agrees to it. Both Suttle, Somerville partners say we want to do this. How do those conversations go with your staff? What kind of questions, what kind of concerns did they have at Somerville about all this?
Yeah, well, once we had decided to move forward with it, and we had a letter of understanding, we had a staff meeting at Somerville, and I basically told the staff that the partners had decided to merge with Suttle and Stalnaker. And then I had prepared a PowerPoint presentation of laying out, you know, how an accounting firm operates, why we would merge, why we think Suttle and Stalnaker is a good fit, how this is beneficial to the employees, and basically try to sit down and counsel them on this is a good deal, and we're not doing it for Barry Burgess, we're not doing it for the partners, we're doing it for everybody, our people, our people, our clients, and our community. And to be honest, there was a shock factor. Of course, Somerville Company's 91 years old at that time. Okay. So there were people who I think didn't feel like they didn't see this coming or had no idea, which means we kept it very confidential. I was going to ask, was there any buzz? But it sounds like there wasn't. Not at that point. Right. But then Suttle and Stalnaker sent their leadership team down subsequent to that and met with our staff, and I think that was a really solid move in making our people feel comfortable with the transaction. When you mentioned like the shock, I mean, what were the questions? Well, they didn't really have any questions because I answered all those through the PowerPoint. I think they came into the meeting expecting it to be a normal monthly staff meeting, and it kind of surprised them. What about your team? So, I mean, our team has been through this before. I was going to, So when you did Parkersburg and you did Morgantown. Yeah. So a lot of them have been through it. They know that, and we've done several other smaller ones where we've just merged smaller firms right into our Charleston office. Right. So we've done, a half dozen of those over the last decade or so. So they weren't completely shocked by that news. And it makes sense, right, for them to see Suttle go to Huntington. It just made natural sense being Charleston, Morgantown, Parkersburg. Yeah. We're always down here recruiting, Marshall students to come to work for us. So, to being in Huntington is not really a change for them. Sure. They had questions as well. I mean, they wanted to know what was happening. But it provides more opportunity for everybody in the firm, I think. Right. And a chance to grow and a chance to do different things and a chance to work on different clients and be involved in different industries. Same question about going to now your clients. Barry, how did you address this with your clients? And was it a one-by-one? Was it a mass email? How did you do that? And same thing, what kind of questions did they have? We just communicated with the clients that this transaction was happening. We actually had a little description of why it was happening and why we thought it was positive for our people, our clients, and our community.
Right.
And the reaction, to be quite honest with you, was 99.9%. That's great.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. A lot of my clients, when I first discussed it with them, thought I was retiring.
Okay.
So they were kind of relieved that I wasn't retiring, that it was a merger. And so we had a couple clients concerned that a Charleston firm would have a different culture. Maybe the alignment wouldn't be quite as good. Bigger isn't always better. Those type concerns, and we, assured them that we'd still be in Huntington, the same people, the same office, the same processes. We just have a bigger toolkit now that we're part of a larger organization.
Well, and the people part, to me, your clients like the person, the partner that they work with, or whatever it might be, and that's what matters most. It's like, well, is he or she going to still be there? Yeah, well, okay, I'm great. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's accounting as a professional service industry. It's primarily about the relationship.
That's right.
So as once the client was fully confident that the relationship would not change, they were fine with it.
Sure. Any your clients, again, status quo for them, but any more communication there, or?
I mean, we put out notice to them. We probably didn't reach out to them individually. Some large ones we may have, but it's not. It wasn't really affecting.
I understand
them.
Did you all have clients in Huntington previously?
We do have clients in Huntington.
Sure. That can be an advantage. Hey, now if you want to come see us, I've got an office right here on Fifth Avenue.
Sure, it is that way. I mean, we have referral sources down here. Clients down here, so it does help from that regard. But
sure. What about you? Technology. How has all that worked? Did you use different softwares and IT? And that's we're the three great guys to talk about IT, I'm sure, in this room here. But talk about that process, making everything work together.
Yeah, in a perfect world, we would have been all using the same software, and it would have just been a matter of combining it. That was not the case.
It's not a perfect world.
We actually were using one suite of products. They were using a different suite of products. They actually reviewed and decided, which one we would go with, and so we're in the process right now of finishing the conversion. Converting our systems over to the same systems. Because Suttle wants to have the same operations in all offices. It's much more efficient, much more, it just makes more sense that way.
Sure. Has it been a smooth transition on technology-wise, or?
I think as far as technology is concerned, it would be smooth. It may not feel like it was smooth because there's always hiccups when you have massive data conversions and things like that. We're in the process still of learning their systems, or I say Suttle's systems. But overall, yes, I think it's been a smooth process because we've got good quality people working on that process.
When it comes to marketing and how does this help in the grand scheme of things in terms of your competitive edge when you're discussing and you're trying to acquire new clients?
It gives us a bigger footprint. It gives us a bigger source of resources and people and talent. We're all about helping businesses, but mostly West Virginia businesses.
Right.
We have clients all over, but mostly West Virginia. And so I don't know that they know a difference that we have a Huntington office from that standpoint.
Right.
Because they're just looking, Suttle's a great firm. They've provided great service, or they're looking for a new accountant, and we came up with a good offer.
Sure.
And so they're doing business with us. But, that work might be being done by somebody in Morgantown, somebody in Parkersburg, someone in Huntington, all working on the same job. The client doesn't necessarily know where the staff's home office is at.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter to getting the job done. So
will that kind of happen? Like people in Morgantown will help out with Huntington clients in Parkersburg and Charleston? Is that...
Our whole concept is it's one firm.
Right.
It doesn't matter where that person may be sitting because they also may just be working remotely from another location.
Sure.
We have employees in Virginia. Someone is going to Utah to work. So
how many employees do you all have total?
There's about 115 employees total.
Okay. Including Somerville's now?
Yes.
Sure. So you mentioned that you've obviously been through a merger before. How is this one different or similar to previous mergers?
I mean, I think this one was pretty similar. I mean, I personally merged my firm in 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I was in a small firm in Charleston. We had about 8 people, and we decided we needed a few more resources, and we needed somewhere to go, and we looked at a couple other firms, and we decided Suttle was the best fit for our firm at the time.
What lessons from that one did you learn that helped you out with Parkersburg and Charleston and Morgantown and now Huntington?
What we learned at a couple places was that it helps to send someone from one of the other offices to the new office.
And you're working in Huntington now.
I am.
You're the Charleston guy that's
Yes,
now. Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
So it's not that we thought anything wasn't right in Huntington or at Somerville Company, but we wanted to make sure that there was a resource in Huntington that the employees could come to with questions, and that we got the culture to match. I mean, I think we thought it matched going into the deal, but we wanted to make sure that it did match and that there was someone here, and so that the employees in Huntington from Somerville felt that that the firm in Charleston or the firm that merged with them,
right,
was there for them.
Sure.
That's been very important, actually. I'm not offended by that at all. Chris has been a great asset to our office, to Huntington. He's actually moved to Huntington now, and we're glad to have him. So he's been very helpful. Even though I've been in charge for a long time and felt like I was running the business, the best I could, we're now part of a larger organization, and he's been very helpful in giving me some guidance and consultations on how things work and how to approach certain things. And it's been a very beneficial process, and I think that lesson they learned in the past made sense.
Is this the first time in a merger where somebody from another office has come to the new office?
Well, we didn't do it when we went to Parkersburg.
Okay.
And it took a little longer to get that office to work the way we worked in Charleston.
That's right.
And so when we did the Morgantown merger, we sent someone there before we agreed to do the merger.
Got it.
So we had to find someone willing to relocate.
That's right.
And it was the same with this merger. We wouldn't have approached Barry if someone wasn't willing to come to Huntington.
Right. Are there any other advice that you would offer, not necessarily for accounting firms merging together, but any other advice you would offer for a company that again, there are a lot of mergers in businesses, but any other advice you'd like to offer?
Well, one thing I would say is this has nothing to do with about saving money by having economies of scale. I mean, that is a small piece of this, but if you're merging to try to save money on back office staff or processes, even though that's a positive, that's not a reason to merge.
Right.
A merger should be a win for all organizations involved, the employees, the customers, the clients. It's a much broader atmosphere that needs to be looked at for a merger. And probably the most important part in my mind is looking for that culture match. You're never going to find someone perfect that does it exactly the way you do, and you're never going to be perfectly attractive to someone else the way you do things. But there has to be a commonality to that culture that will make everyone, from the employees to the clients and the customers, feel like this is a good move.
Sure. Is everybody retained during all of this, or were there back office people and so forth that were?
No, go ahead.
Everyone was retained.
It's great.
We came into this looking for more people.
Got it.
So we didn't want to downsize anyone. We may have reassigned some roles.
Okay.
Yes.
To free people. People.
That's fine. Yeah, of course.
Somerville maybe had a partner who was doing some IT work. Well, we have 3 IT staff, so we were freeing his time up from administrative things so that he could take care of clients.
Sure.
The lady who did their bookkeeping, the firm bookkeeping, now can do client bookkeeping.
Right.
Yes. And I was managing partner, so I had a lot of administrative duties running the firm. I've been freed up from those responsibilities because we have a core executive team that runs the entire organization, and I've got time freed up to do more client service.
Makes sense, which is good,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's you want to work with your clients, and they want to work with you.
Absolutely.
Do you all are you eyeing any future mergers if the opportunities are there, or staying put right now?
We're not looking for any currently. We always listen to someone, approaches us and says, "Hey, I need to, I want to sell my firm, or I want to merge." We look at them.
Right.
We've been approached by the bigger firms as well. We don't want to do that.
Right.
One of our core goals is to remain independent and to be a West Virginia firm taking care of mostly West Virginia clients.
That's right.
So the decisions are made around a table in West Virginia that affect West Virginians, and not in a corporate table in some faraway state.
Obviously this is new. Again, when did this get finalized?
It was effective August the 1st.
August 1st. So it's November. So 3 months ago.
Yep.
How do you measure the success of a merger? And again, you've done this before. How do you go, this is working well?
Well, I mean, there's several things. There's obviously, a monetary value to how it's working monetarily. Can we acquire the talent we need to out of this market? Can we help that firm that was in this market grow their business, because now they have more resources and can work on maybe a larger client that they would have shied away from previously because they didn't have the staff or the expertise in that field to go after that work. And so that's what we're looking at to do. So can we grow this market?
Sure. Barry, anything you want to add on that?
Well, back to the personnel, and this was me 38 years ago. I felt like to have an opportunity, I had to go to a big organization.
Okay.
So at that time, when I graduated from Marshall, I was looking to go to a big national firm in Charleston. They didn't get the memo. They didn't hire me.
Okay.
So I landed at Somerville Company.
Got it.
And best thing that ever happened to me.
Sure.
So we have been challenged with the accounting students at Marshall. They feel like they need to go to the big firms to have an opportunity for growth, advancement, et cetera. And so this provides an opportunity for a student or a graduate to go to a bigger firm,
Sure.
not a national firm, but a statewide, the largest.
That's right.
Locally owned.
4 markets, yeah.
And have those opportunities, but stay in Huntington,
right,
if they so desire, and that's attractive to us.
Can you tell that now when you're talking to college students and interns that there's a difference on that statewide versus being a Huntington-only company?
Yes, I think so. We actually have an employee right now who I think would have probably she wanted to be in Huntington, but she also wanted to be with a larger firm.
Got it.
And so it was a good fit, and I think that will. Yes, I think that will play out as we go. Yeah, to be honest, you don't have to go to a large firm to have opportunities.
No, you don't.
There's opportunities everywhere.
There are people that they do. They think that you do, yes. and that's okay too. I mean, it is. So, and there's some people that would much rather be much smaller than Somerville too, right? I mean, there's something for everybody there too.
Yeah, and that's just kind of starting to play out because recruiting for talent kind of takes place in September or October.
Right. And
you're hiring for the next summer.
Okay.
So you're looking at
that's right,
college seniors and maybe even as low down as sophomores to take on an internship. So we really even haven't gotten the results yet because we just started.
That's right.
Yeah.
Of course. What percentage of your all's intern? How many of your interns are now working with you all still to this day?
Well, with Somerville, it was quite a few because that was our primary recruiting tool. I was an intern back in 1985. That's how I got my start.
Sure.
So one of my partners was an intern. Several of our employees were. So that's I think Suttle recruits primarily through the internship program.
Yeah, I mean we pretty much do. I mean that's your lifeblood. It's tough to convince someone from another firm to switch firms. So either they decide they like it where they're at,
right,
or they don't like public accounting, then they're going to go to industry. It's tough to get them to switch to a different firm after they've been somewhere. So we're trying to hire sophomores really in college.
Sure. How is recruit? I mean, I've done 10 or 12 episodes of this podcast, whatever it is, and finding workers is something that comes up a lot in your industry. How is that?
Well,
going.
It's tough.
Yeah.
There's less kids going to college. There's less kids being born in this country.
Especially in this area.
Yeah.
I mean,
in this area,
population challenge in this area. Yeah.
Less kids are going into accounting because they don't think it's pays well enough or it's not sexy enough or whatever the reason. So the number of kids. So Marshall and W are both working hard to increase their enrollment in their accounting departments along with the other schools. But
sure.
Those are our primary recruiting markets.
Got it. Okay. And Barry, let me ask you this too. And it's kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation. What's the difference between a merger and acquisition? Sometimes, and I think those words do get tossed around incorrectly. And I'm sure people like, oh, we got acquired. No, this is a true merger. What's the difference?
Yeah, well, it's complicated, but kind of a simplified answer is if I were getting, let's say I had my own firm and I was the only partner and I was looking to retire in 5 years, I would probably be acquired, where someone would write me a check.
And take your book of business.
Take my book of business. I would probably stay on for a few years to transition. I would fade into the sunset, and I'm gone.
Right.
A merger is really just a combination of resources, ownership, equity, client bases, staffing, and there's really not a monetary exchange. There's just a monetary pooling of the equity that the firms have, and so the organization continue. Now, Suttle was much larger, so the name.
I was going to ask.
It's no longer Somerville Company. It's Suttle and Stalnaker. That's okay. We basically were folded into Suttle and Stalnaker, but and became the Huntington office of Suttle and Stalnaker. It wasn't an acquisition; it was a merger. So a merger is typically just the pooling of resources and employees, et cetera. An acquisition is really one company buys another company, and that company that got acquired either ceases to exist or starts operating very differently than they were before.
Sure. Was there any discussion on the name of keeping the word Somerville in there at all, or was that from the beginning like, no, this is going to be Suttle and Stalnaker?
It was pretty much known from the beginning, and we had no hang up with that.
Sure.
I mean, even though Somerville had been around a long time, I understand the situation, and Suttle has a tremendous reputation throughout the state. And as we told clients and referral sources that we were doing the merger, we got very positive feedback from individuals who had worked with Suttle in other projects.
Right.
So I have no problem being identified with Suttle and Stalnaker.
Anything? I mean, that's pretty much all I had. Anything else that I missed? Anything else you want to add?
I'll just say that one of my concerns was the commitment to the community, which I alluded to earlier. I've prided myself on being involved in our community, not only from a marketing point of view for our firm, but to help the community, to give back. I believe in that very seriously. I've given a lot of my time to our profession and to our community, and I did not want that to stop. And I'm very confident that is not going to stop because of the culture matchups and the community service that Suttle does throughout the entire state. Huntington is still going to be a top priority for Suttle and Stalnaker, and I don't think anyone needs to worry about a pullback as far as supporting the community.
That's great. And again, I'll add on that too. I think Chris making the move from Charleston to Huntington kind of shows that commitment to Huntington. This isn't just all right, now we got Huntington. You're all in.
I'm all in. I mean, I moved to Huntington. I told my wife I wanted to be there.
That's right.
I'm down here a lot for Marshall. I bleed green and white, and I want to be more involved in the community. And the only way to be more involved in the community is to live here. And so, we live on 4th Avenue.
And that's our episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and even leave us a review. Season 1 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington, MosesMeansMore.com, and powered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications.